Hello, this is Nikki, Business Communications 115, Call to Action Speech, The Need for CPR. And here is my audience. Would you believe that a friend or a family member will die from cardiac arrest in your lifetime? Have you ever thought about what you would do if a friend or loved one were to collapse and become unresponsive? What do you think is the leading cause of death in the United States? Do you think it's car accidents, cancer, strokes, heart disease? According to the American Heart Association, cardiac arrests that occur out of the hospital are the leading causes of death in the United States, taking over 350,000 lives on a yearly basis. Without immediate CPR, victims will die. I chose this topic because I believe that everyone, including non-healthcare professionals, should learn CPR. CPR is a simple procedure which can be executed from the time you hang up with 911 until the time that EMS arrives. Today we are going to look at the problem of immediate action, the solution to learn CPR, and what you as my audience can do to be part of the solution. First, we're going to begin with the problem. Cardiac arrest, based on statistics from the American Heart Association, in order to double or triple your chances of survival, CPR needs to be initiated immediately. Without immediate action, your chances of survival are less than 8%. For heart attacks, during cardiac arrest, your lungs and your brain are not getting adequate blood supply. For heart attack victims, the blood supply to the heart is being compromised. And when the blood to the heart is being compromised, your heart muscle begins to die. So with a heart attack victim, call EMS, get 911 there as fast as you can. If that heart attack victim becomes unresponsive, start chest compressions. That's very important. Get the blood circulating. Start chest compressions. Drowning. Do you guys know how many people drown in one day?
No.
Anybody?
No.
No?
Oh,
20.
I know.
How many?
100.
100. That's a really good guess. Thank you.
100,000 milliliters.
Thank you, Shauna. According to the Centers for Disease Control, there are 10 unintentional drowning deaths per day. And of these 10, 2 are children aged 14 and under. Learning, knowing, and performing CPR can help save a child's life. Now that we realize how many people would die without immediate attention, let's move on to the solution. Learn CPR. CPR is an essential life skill that all should learn, which provides a useful gift in order to save lives. It is an empowerment needed to take action when necessary. Quality CPR classes are offered through the American Heart Association as well as the American Red Cross. Learning the skills in a CPR course, showing the initiative and capability to act in difficult situations will make a huge difference in the short amount of time it takes to save somebody's life. How many of you have heard of a Good Samaritan?
I've never even heard of that word.
How many of you know that there are Good Samaritan laws? Even better, I love it. These laws, according to the American Association of Orthopedic Surgeons, protect the bystander who chooses to help somebody that may be in danger or injured. The Good Samaritan is lawfully protected if unintended consequences are a result from their assistance. Also, take the initiative to step up and help when needed. Considering that the American Heart Association recommendation is for compression-only CPR, any bystander should not be afraid. As a bystander, if a victim is not responsive, call 911 and begin chest compressions at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. or, as they say, to the song of the made famous by the Bee Gees, Staying Alive. We know the problem and the solution. What happens if we do nothing? All right, I invite you now to close your eyes and picture this scenario. Henry was enjoying the morning newspaper after his delicious breakfast. He got up from the table and suddenly he felt like he was being drugged through the mud and the water. He saw plants wilting their leaves around him. Animals were howling his name. He saw a golden light far in the distance. His wife and children were there, but just out of arm's reach. Henry felt like he was speeding up and felt a good sense of peace. He felt his senses were vivid, and he rose and levitated above his body. What was happening was that Henry was having a cardiac arrest. Henry's wife, Heather, knew that something was wrong, but she didn't know what to do. She called 911. Unfortunately, Henry was dead when EMS arrived in just under 10 minutes. Please keep your eyes closed, and now let's imagine this scenario again, only Heather knows CPR. And when Heather recognizes that there is a problem with Henry and he is unresponsive, she immediately calls 911. And then she immediately starts chest compressions at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. After EMS arrives, they take over for Heather and transfer Henry to the hospital where he recovers. All right, guys, open your eyes. Now, which scenario would you prefer? One with CPR or one without?
Without.
So what can we do?
CPR.
You can register to take a CPR class with the American Heart Association or the American Red Cross. And you, my audience, will now be taught compression-only CPR, which is what you as a bystander can do if you were to find a loved one or a friend unresponsive. Remember to first establish unresponsiveness by calling the person by their name, rubbing on their chest with your knuckles, also known as a sternal rub, just to make sure that they haven't maybe just passed out. And when you have established that they are unresponsive, call 911 if you're by yourself. If you are with somebody, designate that person, most importantly by name. Scott, go call 911. And then you can start chest compressions yourself at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. And at a depth of 2 to 2.4 inches or a third of the depth of the victim's chest. Do we have any questions? Shauna?
Do you have to give them CPR, or do you just have to wait and see or tickle their armpits?
I wouldn't tickle their armpits. The most important thing is to start your chest compressions immediately. That's what's going to help save their life.
But what if they fall asleep? What if they just went into a coma?
That's why you activate EMS, so they can take the person to the hospital and they'll take over at the hospital.
And see if they're dead.
Well, hopefully that will not happen before they get to the hospital. So a common question is, why don't you check for a pulse? So the majority of the time as a bystander, you're not going to detect an absence of a pulse, or you're going to be more than likely to find your own pulse instead. So with the importance of getting that blood circulating, it's more important to immediately start chest compressions. Another question is, should you stop compressions if the victim gasps for air? The answer is no. Gasping for air is a sign that you're doing a good job with your compressions. It is not a sign of recovery. And lastly, are rescue breaths needed? No. If you're a bystander doing CPR, you do not need to give rescue breaths. So we're going to go ahead and learn how to do some chest compressions. And I like to use the heel of my hand. So I will put that on the victim's chest, take my opposite hand and lock my fingers. And keeping my elbows straight and my shoulders centered above the patient's chest, I'm going to press down. And I'm gonna press for 30 compressions, resting approximately 2 seconds, but I'm gonna keep doing this for 5 cycles. So. So that right there was 5 cycles, and it's recommended that you keep up with these compressions until EMS arrives. So the adults in the audience can please come up and give it a shot.
How do you determine where to place your hand?
They say to put your hand on the center of the chest. When I was being taught CPR, you came about 2 finger breadths above the bottom of the sternum, and then place the heel of your hand.
Wait, I have a question. Actually, I have something else. When you give CPR to someone that actually doesn't need CPR, they can actually die, right?
I'll leave that to the medical professionals in the hospital. All right, go ahead, guys, come on up. Adrenaline is a big key in this one.
If you press at the gym, then that can snap it and you can break the chest and it can die. Arms locked.
I know, let me get my glasses.
Because when you lock your arms, that's putting more of your body weight. Because if you bend your arms, that's just like.
You guys are professionals.
How hard is too hard?
How much times do you press?
I don't think you have to worry about pressing too hard. Usually most people don't press hard enough.
Okay.
How much times do you have to press?
You press 30 for 30 times as hard as you can, and you do that for 5 times.
But what if they wake up and they're like in the middle of doing that?
Paul, you wanna come take your turn, please?
You the kid gets shot. That's not fair.
Hers.
Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I do it?
All right,
Can I
you
do
can-
it? I learned about.
And you can end your
All right.
cycle there.
Can I
Yes.
do it? Can I
So what are you
do it?
supposed to do at the end of the 5 cycles? How long of a break are you able to take?
Roughly 2 seconds.
So even at the end of the 5 cycles?
Yep, just, you're supposed to keep
Oh,
going
can I-
until EMS arrives. All right, thank you guys. Thank you for being my audience. I certainly appreciate it, taking time out of your day to come over and help me get this finished. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I do it? Can I do it?
Look at the camera.
5. 5.